I just got to put my glasses, not the fog. Okay, approval of the October minutes.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Okay, there we go. Visitors' comments?
Don't have any visitors.
Great. Okay, old business. Event feedback about the trick-or-treating event. Anybody, I guess, am I the only retail business here probably? Or Gary, of course?
Officially participate.
Okay. We handed out about 700 pieces of candy. So it was crazy busy for us for that. And I have to think that businesses down in Gore were even busier. I mean, I just lined it, you know, they don't even barely come up my way, it didn't seem like. So it was very, very successful event for that. So
I think there were some people that mentioned that they ran out.
yeah, we did. We had 500. We had to run to Schnucks. Of course, Schnucks was out. Then we went, so it was yeah. But we came through at the end and had a 3 pieces left over, something like that. So, any other comments on the trick or treating? Holiday open house.
I think we set a record.
Okay.
Weather was nice, decent.
Yeah, a little windy and cold if you were serving beer outside.
Yeah, I know that. Which you were.
Which I was, yes. It was, I don't know, I don't feel like we got as much traffic up where we were, but people, once they just stay down the corridor of the main of Gore and Lockwood, I think mostly is what I saw, so.
The trade association, many of the retail folks said it was one of their best days.
Okay.
When I went around, I would stick my head in and there were so many people in the stores and right in front of the stores that I just waved. It was just,
right.
Because it was steady. Normally it's one of these, but it was all day long.
Mm-hmm.
I ran out of candy canes at the info booth. But the Santa thing seemed to work well. The kids weren't sitting on Santa's lap, they were sitting in front of them, and none of them seemed to notice it was different.
Right. That's good to hear.
From my perspective as a first open house, it was really nice to see lots of people.
Right.
But what I did notice, one of the things I just heard for both events here is, you know, how do you activate better that piece of Lockwood from Gore towards City Hall here? Really towards your business, how the core rotates around Gore, Lockwood, the parking ramp. How do we activate a broader spectrum? And I don't know the answer to that question. It's one of the things I noticed.
Well, and if you really think about Gary and like the hardware store, that's really off the beat. I mean,
sure.
you know,
I was going to say that's really become the primary reason we don't officially participate.
Sure, right.
Because we notice no jump or negative. It just doesn't seem to be a factor with us. And plus, for part of the thing, we give away cookies. That's what we sell.
Right. Exactly.
You know?
No, I'm with you.
So that's
yeah.
I don't know how Straub's done it. I have no idea.
They give away everything. It's crazy over there, but it's one of those things that we don't try to discount. I mean, our whole society is give away, and it's just like we need to make money. You know, we do the best we can on everything we do. None of us are rich. You know, it's just like, but everything is discount. What's your discount going to be? And it's just like, this is what we do every day, all day long. We provide this unbelievable customer service, and that's what we have to continue to do to stay in business. So
we could probably get more activity up there if I participated as well. I mean, it's not going to do anything for my, you know, we could put a fire pit out front, maybe some high tables, you know, like to add to what you're doing.
Right.
So and then maybe get the girls next door.
And maybe have some events. You could have some events down by Gary's and stuff. That'd be the one way to you'd have to draw people. You'd have Santa down there.
We've had the fire pits. We've had music. When the trolley used to turn around in our lot, I would actually get on the trolley and say, "Hey guys, we got this and we got that."
They just don't.
I mean, frankly, people want to shop.
Right.
You know, they want to buy they want to go to the boutiques and all that stuff. And I get that. You know, they don't want to. I don't think the businesses down here want them spending an hour sitting up here, nursing a hot chocolate.
Right.
You know, so I get it. You know, I mean, I think it's just a reality.
It's never traditionally been a great day for us at all, but it is community goodwill.
Right.
And you cannot measure how many people came in your store with kids getting ideas for Christmas about bikes and stuff and come back. You know, we always have good Christmases, so it's one of those things. Of course, we'll always participate, but
one of the things that I always enjoy at the info booth is the people that are familiar with this, that's where they come. So I get to meet and talk to the people that they just moved to Webster. This is the first time they've been here. I didn't know about it. I found out by accident. And that we had a lot of people like that.
right.
So, which is one of the things you want to do is bring in new
Absolutely.
folks.
Right, yeah, for sure.
I'm not, again, suggesting any changes. I just.
No,
Crossing
you're
Elm is gonna be tough, right? I mean, because it's a main thoroughfare, but I do throw out, and I'm not trying to shut down driving traffic, but we are coming across more and more street closures. And if the art fair is really gonna come to Old Webster, which is a potential next year, do we look at some of these events like the holiday open house, going to a full street closure to help pedestrian mall the street fronts and try to mingle people more and such? I don't know if that's the right answer. I'm just throwing out more ideas for you.
I think it's the right answer. I'm all for street closures. I mean, I think that's how you get people, you know,
Yes.
out. And, I mean, it's you're not closing them permanently. You're closing them for a day to make people feel comfortable on the streets. And
It's always been the fire department that's kind of been the.
Sure. Well, and we've talked about that in terms of Webster, in terms of the arts fair potential. And as long as we keep a lane somehow, I mean, as we look at what we do in the street and keep a lane, and obviously if they need to come through, you know, we need to have people up clearing the lane out in front, and we can figure that out. I think we can program to that and figure out how not to pack the sidewalks, how to use the street, but also make sure we still have egress and ingress.
Right.
And, you know, as we talked about the potential for the arts fair, I mean, as we look at street closures, what just happened in Waukesha should ring through for all of us about, you know, we have to look at making sure that street closure is not just a simple barricade that people can plow right through. So,
And you do sort of that on 4th of July.
Right.
Streets virtually closed. Not literally.
Exactly. Daytime closures are not going to be a huge deal or problem. I mean, if we want to look at that for the next holiday open house, certainly something we could look at doing. So good.
One thing about closing Lockwood that we've always tried to avoid is that we lose the people who just come by and see that there's an event going on.
Yeah, you could actually physically we could just buy a couple more signs and stuff to put over barricades and say open house, you know, and they'll look down and see, at least they'll be able to know what's going on, you know.
The other thing is that if you, yes, there is, you eliminate a lot of the parking deck and all when you do that. And people who cannot walk distances. So then you need to almost provide some golf carts just running around for shuttling and such.
Yeah, could happen. It's not a problem. It's you know, it's closed for there's definitely people, elderly people who come to our business to watch the 4th of July parade. We direct them around back ways, and then we help them get across the street. And you know, it's doable for that. It's, you know, those people at the last second may have a little bit of trouble, but I think it's a very small percentage of the people.
And you know, if we were to close Lockwood, because obviously like in the arts fair, we're talking about Lockwood staying open so that the deck could be used. We could direct people back coming up Gore onto, I can never remember the street behind the deck that runs behind the 20 North Avenue building to access the deck. So I mean, there's solutions. It's a matter of how much work we want to do for it. Also.
And you just have to publicize that and promote that.
And good signage on the day. So.
Exactly. Any other comments? All right. Old business. So rooftop lighting updates. So
I hear we got some electric installed yesterday.
Electric was installed. Yes, it was.
The Public Works had ordered and they're supposed to be in next week, 1,000 feet of the Christmas lights. that can be clipped and plug-ons added, you know, so just like Joe talked about.
So to the.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that for the tree, I'm sorry, I'm on the trees.
You're good, guys. It's all the same.
Yeah. So I think 50 light bulbs are left at the front desk. I hope Dan picked them up. Joe, do you know?
I do not know. I was unavailable really Friday afternoon and most of yesterday. So
okay, so they were at the front desk for pickup, and then we have all the rest of the strings and the lights and stripe. So Clayton, who I believe it was Dan or Bill, I'm not sure who had talked with Clayton, but he has got Mark Hinkle's number and email to just reach out and schedule. So he's got all the strings that they're in my office. They're going to pick them up whenever they want to put them up. So the other addresses that need fixing, they are going to assess when they are here to do Mark's property.
Okay.
So, and that includes Old Orchard. There's a whole slew of them down at Old Orchard.
So when we do get the 1,000 strand or
1,000 feet of the tree lights,
I would tell you probably just to put it at the Canary Park location because it's super easy. And then when we get the set, or Dan, I don't care, but we need to pick one.
Well, is all 1,000 going to go in one or both those? I mean, the tree in front of Canary is not very huge.
One strand?
So the strands can be clipped, and then you just put new plugins in. So we'll string them to length, and then just simply
put some over at the ends and some over.
Right. So I've got them for the two addresses: the 52 West Lockwood and 23 North.
Yeah, 500, I think, in each. I think
perfect.
Plenty.
So that'd be perfect.
And of course, please tell them that if they think, hey, no, 300 was plenty for this tree, they kind of will know because that's what they've done. They can do whatever they know what it looks like.
Right.
So then,
I'm not going to have them overload the tree just simply to use up feet. So we can have another box of lights sit in my office for a while.
What was the approximate cost of that strand?
I do not know. Public Works has the invoice. So
okay. So do we want at the next couple meetings, we might want to order some more.
Yes, and that's something we will talk about here in a minute about next year's budget.
Yeah, got it.
I want to make sure and tell Public Works we're very appreciative of getting all these decorations out in time and all the stuff they've done to get our open house looking good for open house. That's always been a little bit of a.
And I will do so, and we passed that on as well. So we had heard some good comments after the open house. So we have. The city manager sent them all note.
That's great. That's awesome.
Question, right? How do you, I've in the past, I've relied on our landlord to take care of this, but it hasn't happened. How do, say, we get the lights?
So if you want to get lights, basically it's a 50-50 participation program. It's not that much money. I mean, I think we paid like $100 and something a piece for our building. And then the taxing or the special business district will match that, and then we'll get them installed on your roof and around your building.
So what would the cost be to us?
We'd have to get like a quote. Mara had a flat figure per linear square foot that she kind of worked with Stride through, and I don't know if that's still.
I don't know if it's still active or not. So I mean, I think this is with Olive Oak. We didn't use that. We sent them to schedule and make the quote just to make sure it's still because of price changes.
Right, exactly.
With the supply chain. So I mean, that's been sort of the issue here. We've got a bunch. We don't have any light bulbs. I've got all the strings and washers we need to do a building.
Right,
in my office. We just don't have light bulbs to put in. So. I would not guess more than a couple $100 here for the entirety of your business. And really it's, you've got probably two and a little bit of your east face, it's really two faces that you're going to have lights on. So,
And I have talked to Dan too.
Sure.
I'm just curious.
If you want to do it, let us know because that'll probably be the next building.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to talk about the trees. So it's the holiday window candle.
So tell me what the plan is. Everyone has their candles. We did not take any back last year. So if I need to tell people to put them out, we can send something out or
that's what we need to try to do.
Okay.
Because people haven't.
Does it come from the city or is that a trade association thing? I know we bought them as the district.
Right. It's a taxing district kind of thing. I mean, last year I delivered them. So, and knocked on doors and people weren't there and knocked on doors again and stuff like that. I do have some left over that are at my shop that aren't that many. Maybe like
I think I've got 10 or 12.
Okay, all right. So But yeah, if we can send something out, I guess, and then we'll take a look around, and we're not gonna have another meeting, but we need to kind of get on it a little bit more than not. And so maybe we'll revisit it. If we could send a message out to all the businesses,
Okay,
and then maybe in a week or so, we'll look at it. And maybe Fran, you and I can get together and we'll have and then we'll have to just go from there and see who has to knock on doors and do whatever we need to do to get that.
And I have plenty of extra batteries. We have 3 boxes of batteries in there, so folks are out of there.
I would put that in the message
Yes,
too,
so
if you should.
the
need
batteries are available.
And then,
Or replacement candle.
how expensive, I mean, is it too late to purchase a few more if we need them? Because there's gonna be some people that can't find them.
I think
true.
so. If you have, I think we have probably, I would say about 20 total.
It should be, and people, I mean,
That, as long as we let them know we have some
Yes.
backup too.
Right,
and we'll
exactly.
just go with that.
I don't think they're incredibly expensive. I just don't know with shipping and
Yeah, we
things,
won't
you know.
pay.
I mean, we guaranteed this is made in China stuff, so.
Right.
So,
right.
It'll be interesting to see how many actually go up from without really any,
I know.
giving you the box and saying, please put them out.
Right, exactly. It is that way.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Back on the light, what's the deadline for that? For letting you know.
So if you want to let us know, so our next meeting will be in January 25th.
Okay.
And that's, yeah, and then we can,
Or, you know.
and that's just our first preliminary budget meeting. And then, yeah, February will be,
We'll have money in the budget. It's just whoever wants to do it. It really comes down to we need participants. If you want to do it, we'll make it happen.
We got the lights, like around the rooftops down.
exactly, that's exactly what we're talking about. Outlining just the roof of your building, just like, Old Orchard, a lot of business down here are, and so.
I'll talk to
It
them.
would be nice to get you and Schnars.
Sometimes.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that would just help
Yeah.
push it down this way more. So,
Yeah, it's also a weather question. They probably can't be installed until spring at this time.
right, yeah, and they put an adhesive on the buildings. It has to be a certain temperature for certain.
we're gonna drive that long of screws right now through all your mortars, so. I'm
Right.
joking, I'm joking.
With no silicone. So I don't think we've had any business have any problems with any damage whatsoever, so. Okay. The kiosk, I guess, we're gonna have to put that on hold.
So just on that, and Mara and I have just been talking, once we get the kiosk up,
Right.
who's gonna be responsible for flyers and,
That's my,
Because-
I was just thinking the same.
just to be
thing
honest with you,
the
we
other
don't have
day.
time at City Hall to run around
I
and take
totally
flyers
understand,
down.
and
so.
I will also say we have wayfaring, we have signs that,
Yes.
and that aren't taken care of at all, and it's
Right.
not
No, no,
city's
that's,
fault, it's our fault, really. I mean, it's really our fault, but it's just like, you run a business, you do all this other stuff in your life, and it's like, I don't disagree that, it's horrible to have something sitting there that's out of date, that somehow gets some cracked plexiglass on it, looks like garbage, that now we've spent $6,000 or $7,000 on.
What's the location we're looking at?
We're looking at, right at the entrance to the parking garage,
Yeah,
right next
okay.
to so it's, the signage that we have at the entrances to parking lots and parking decks, that's something that should be taken care of first or removed altogether.
so on that, because Mara and I, as we transitioned the business districts, we talked about that, and she said, I'm gonna keep this project, because I've dealt with
Okay,
that, you're talking about the signs with the, little,
Exactly,
that still
right.
show the pizza place. and,
exactly
you know,
right.
Things like that. So she has that because she has those connections and
Okay, that's great.
ultimately get those correct. So
Okay,
she's aware of that because we just talked about it last week. I said, signs are going to come up sooner or later again. So what's the plan? And she's like, I'll get on it. So
okay, that's great.
with
Well, that's-
Douglas Hill, it just fell.
Yeah, that's good. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
It's, and everybody's super busy, but it's kids came by, vandalized the sign.
Yeah.
And then at that point, it's you have to have somebody try to match the sign. Well, that company's not in business anymore, so she does know.
In fact, I think we are, I'm going to call them shingles, the little slide ins,
Yeah.
signs. I think we may have the replacements already.
Okay,
So,
great. Oh,
I
awesome.
mean, she's got a whole stack of boxes down there for those.
Oh,
signs.
cool.
So-
That's fantastic. Okay. Well,
And isn't there a cost to the business to be listed on there?
there was, and it was like a one-time thing originally, and then we started matching, and I don't know where it is now. Joe may be able to help me a little.
I think it was $125 or $200, and it was a lifetime. I think it was still a one-time fee.
Right. I think that you're right.
I remember when we did the one for Forenza Pizza that they had to pay something.
Yeah, a little bit, just right. Just to help for that sign, just to have that little
Just for their piece.
Whatever I think the engraving or whatever was for that one sign is what they had to pay.
Right. Yeah, we were responsible for the whole giant sign.
Right.
They are just responsible for whatever the cost is for their little plug-in, I think was what it was.
I don't remember the cost, but I know I've got a file full of the sign up sheets for everyone to say, please get me a sign, and you know.
Is this gonna be something with one of these like tall round things with, you know, different flyers and things posted on it, or is this gonna be something like more like you see in a mall? You know, where they have, it's a kind of
we don't really, Stacy was working on it, and so I'm not really sure where we are in it, to be honest with you. I believe what I understood was it's going to be let's say a 6 foot, 8 foot long contraption with 2 poles that then would have a map on it inside that would then show where the local businesses are and where you are and stuff like that.
But I've seen some of these where it's the flyer versions where it just winds up like the old fashioned staple to a telephone pole.
Right,
You know,
right. Yeah, we don't
want
want that, no. So, but Stacy's heading that up and she's not here, so.
Well, I certainly don't want to speak for the city because we have the sign ordinance, but there is, and I'm not suggesting a whole digital sign, but there are, if you need to announce events, there's ways I think that we could work to get a modest amount of digital added, right? Rather than plopping up signs every time and such. Now,
right.
You know, so, I mean, we obviously have exempted certain places, you know, school and the couple churches down here have digital signs, which do not conform to the sign ordinance. So
right, okay.
I think there's ways we can work that through. It's just a matter of what you want, and if that's, you know, then we take it to council and work it through. So
I like that idea a lot better than spending money on it. I'm not saying the kiosk bad, but if we have a budget and you're spending $5,000 or $5,000, I'd rather have a digital sign like at Elm or on coming into the district, you know, down by on the western side of the district or even the northern side of the district. You know, just a sign that you could even advertise certain whatever.
Right.
I've heard from plenty of business owners that want digital signs now. And so I think it's going to become an issue at City Hall ultimately that we're going to have to reckon with again on the sign ordinance.
Okay.
You know, I don't want to go out and change my letters on my sign like we do here at City Hall.
Right.
Right. And so
as long as like the city council is okay with it,
right.
I mean, then we can, I don't want to work on something if they're going to. So
well, I agree. And I mean,
that was brought up in city council and they had kind of given us the, let's move, possibly look at it. And I would love to look at that.
Right. Okay. Well, we can definitely raise the issue and test the waters.
So that would be great.
Yeah. Mr. Franklin's on, so I think he can.
Not sure exactly where, but you know, if they said we would be okay in this location, we would be fine with it.
I never understood our sign ordinance, to tell you the truth. It makes no sense that we don't allow electric signs in my mind.
That's an old school thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is, really. I think it is just to make sure.
It's just the way it's always been. That's Webster.
Everything
I know we asked and we're turned down. Stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just not to have a whole bunch of neon. Right. Yeah. So,
Don't want to look like Branson.
right. Exactly. Okay. So new business. So we do not meet in December. So we meet in January, and we meet at the very end of January, which is always a problem. So we have the latest meeting. So we have January and February to get our budget done. And so our next meeting on the 25th of January is going to be full on budget, the whole thing. And so, Eric, I don't know if you were able to maybe.
I'm happy to walk through some things for you.
That'd be great. Okay.
So I've got, for those in the room, you can take one of each of these here if you haven't. And for those on the screen, we'll get this emailed out. But what you see on the screen right now is what we call the budget performance report. So this is your budget. And so that's the one with the blue. That's this year. So year to date. So if we look, as you look at it, you have revenue on top, which we will estimate your revenue for you. So it's 47,000 in property taxes. That number will be slightly higher in our estimate for this coming year, given this change in assessments. And then really business licenses, which is the 28,000 is our, excuse me, let me get the right one here. The budget is 30,000, sorry, in column M. The interest income is interest on your fund balance because we invest your fund balance. You have $104,000 in your old Webster fund balance sitting in, we call it savings account, sitting there, and we invest that in short-term CDs, money markets. So we try to keep it somewhat liquid so that if you wanted to do a big project or such, you have access to it. This 40,000 of operating transfers out, that's the business district parks donation to do all the horticulture. So that's the transfer over to that fund to pay for those. And then if you look, so in column N, as you see my mouse move down, I think folks on the screen can see it, but if not, the first set of numbers, this is your actual budget of spend. So miscellaneous, we put $100 in, we have 9,000 for operational equipment, professional services at 5150, that's really Fran's services. Disposal services, that's the dumpster, 1,600. Land rental at 12,800, that's the parking ramp. Streetlights at 1,400, and then advertising is your big spend outside of paying parks to do beautification at 25,000. So when you look at column T, excuse me, column S, the third set of numbers, that's year to date this year. The next column is the remaining this year. And then this U column, the small numbers, are the percentage so far you've spent. Okay. And then the last column is last year's actual spend. So in FY21, what did we actually spend out of each of these line items? Okay. So, and then the other document I gave you, which I will share for all of you just briefly here. And so we can, you all have this, but I want to walk through. This is called the worksheet. So when we created the budget you're in, this is, Mara probably never showed you the worksheet, but and that's fine. This is our actual, what we do is we create a zero budget for every department, including you. Okay. So everything goes to zero. So then we have to add back in everything we anticipate spending on. So this year, if you look at this sheet, you look here at operational equipment, you'll see these three lines: the building lights, general district items, trash cans. Those are the actual things that we added back into the budget. So how did we get to 9,000 for your budget? We added 3,000 for building lights, 800 for general district items, and 5,200 for trash cans. Okay. So this is the worksheet that we'll need to put together. What do we anticipate spending on? And that builds to the budget. And then I know this is rotated the wrong way, so I'm going to flip it here for everyone. If we look to the back page, your budget, as you can see, is about, in 2022 was about $55,000. Revenue, obviously, when you take the operating transfer out, is below that. So it looks like a deficit, but that's really because we've moved revenue over to Parks District to pay for that. So we used a little bit of fund balance this year to pay for things. So. Okay. And that's not a problem. Like I said, you have a big fund balance, so we can continue to do that. You have no restrictions on your fund balance. It's really your decision. Okay. So as we look at making the budget, as you look at your budget worksheet, this is really the item, and I'm sorry I have to rotate this again for everyone on the screen, but this budget worksheet will give you a sense of what we need to know to enter into your budget. Okay. And I'm happy to talk through anything. The process is very simple. Obviously, we will talk about budgets, and I can create a recommendation for you all. Sort of a cost carry forward budget of, sort of our standard plan of action. We can address if we want to do more lights, if we want to look at a sign. And also, I know we set the budget. We can always ask the council if we want to amend the budget. So if you wanted to do let's say the sign, right? You want to spend 10,000 right now, we can take to council a budget amendment on your recommendation that changes the budget for this year, even that way. Okay. So, all right. So I'll stop prattling there and let you all ask questions.
I don't have anything with the budget. I do think at some point in the next year or so, we're going to, our street lights out, the ones on the nice ones on the sidewalks.
Yep.
We changed them out to LED about 15, 20 years ago?
No, it was only, Joe, what was that?
10 years?
No, it was 2000 and
14 or
13 or
16
14.
something. Yeah.
Well, these seem to be made, we need to have some kind of an idea if they start going bad on us with the cost.
We just repaired a bunch of them, Eric, and
Sure.
so basically, originally when we funded that, the original funding was half of taxing district, half of the city,
Okay.
matched, I believe. Joe, correct me when I'm wrong here. You'll know more than me.
I'm not sure if the city matched, but I believe the city was to take over maintenance and such of them after they were paid for.
Okay. Well, I know that, so recently, Dan Warner came to me and Eric and,
Right.
mentioned that all his lights on Gore were not very well lit. And he was correct. It's one of those things that I don't go outside and look up at the street lights, to be honest with you. I guess if the one's out in front of my business, I would notice it. I did a walk around of the business, all the businesses, the day or two after that. I did notice quite a few were out, but you had Public Works go and fix them.
So Public Works replaced bulbs in all of them except the one behind San Jose, which needed actual repair.
Right.
So I will check with Frank and see. I'm quite sure that the city just assumed that there are costs.
Right.
No
Exactly.
different than
That's what
changing.
Joe was saying as well.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
So
I think we have operated now, unless, and I'm not throwing any shade at anyone. I'm assuming there's not a memorialized agreement between the district and the city about when we put them in, that we're going to do half or they're going to do half. And
right.
So,
If you feel like the bulbs are, maintenance is going to keep them going, then there's no issue.
yeah. So, I mean,
I haven't looked at them again since you mentioned it to me. So,
well, I mean, they look great on board.
they look really good. The one behind San Jose fell in priority. We obviously have to fix it, but they have so many string lights there across their little patio that it sort of takes away the whole mood of the light anyway. So
right.
The one other thing is I keep being told it can't be done. Anything can be done. So we need to see if we can somehow put outlets in some of the poles, not all of them, but some of them, so we can actually get lights possibly on the pole, on not every pole. So if we could have an electrician, Strive or whoever, and if they come back and say, no, it's absolutely not able to be done, I'd like to hear that. Or it's $1,000 a pole, or it's $500.
Sure.
But anything can be done. It might just cost a lot.
Yeah.
But I'd like to know the number. Because what we're doing on all these businesses is, at some point we just need them on a pole.
Yeah, no, I don't have any issue with getting costing on that. I don't have any issue with doing the streetlights. I mean, I have no problem working to that way. I think it ultimately comes down to, is that a city general fund power expense, or does that go to the district? Because right now the streetlights are in general hanging on the city general fund.
Right.
So when we add more power usage, and I'm not saying that the city has a problem doing that. I mean, we're not talking about a lot of power here, I don't think. So, but it's ultimately, if we're going to start doing that, Old Orchard's going to move in that way. And so, and we just need to assess that from a city perspective. Is that truly the direction we're going to go? Right. Take that cost off.
That's fine.
So,
well, when we just add our street light budget,
they're not metered to you though. They're all metered together into the city account. So we'd have to move our number up. We can look at usage and see if usage were to go up and what's a formula we could build out of the bill and such. So we could do that, but it's also, creating expectation and managing that as we look to do all this.
Sounds good. With the LED, it shouldn't be any.
It shouldn't be. I agree. So,
and then I know Crossings is putting in, Crossroads is putting in some lights. And I mentioned that to them. I said, when you put them in, you should have that capability.
Yes, and that has come up in their streetscape.
Okay.
So of course that's held up with county issues with Alman Big Bend.
Sure.
Right.
Okay.
Well, Old Orchard's going to be putting in new ones too.
Correct. So
it's definitely one of those things that
we just didn't think about it.
Yeah, well, nobody did, and it was so long ago when the original, those weren't even LEDs before. They were, and so we had trouble with the original LEDs we had to put in because of the type of wiring it was as well that we weren't aware of, that the company actually stood behind, which was good. That had the lights put in. So,
all right,
okay.
We may need like a bench or a trash can or something like that.
Well, we have some money, like Yeah, exactly. And we have money in for trash cans that we talked about, I think it was last spring, but did we ever get those in? And I know Stacy, if she was here, she would be able to tell us in front of her store because she was complaining forever about her trash can. But we just, I guess, need to look into that and see if that
Would these the standard trash cans that, you know.
right,
the metal
the
ones
big
with
heavy ones that are so expensive, which
Yeah.
you know,
And we did enter for 4 of them at 1,300 apiece. So
okay. And
I will check with Mara and see if they ever got ordered if we need.
right, okay, or if they ever got here. Yeah. So they're not in areas in front of our store, but
when I was at the open house or the Walktoberfest, one or the other, the benches on what's called the concrete park or whatever, they're the entrance to the garage. A couple of those benches are in really, really poor condition.
Okay.
Damaged by skateboarders, but nonetheless, they're splitting. They really, when you get up and look at them, they look pretty bad.
You're talking right off of Lockwood on where we enter on the ramp?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Next door to McConnenberg.
Yep. Okay. We have those steps to deal with. So, yep.
and you're looking into those steps.
Yes. So I'm pretty sure that they are the city's responsibility. There just seems to be a living tradition somewhere in Public Works that no, when we built that was not supposed to be our steps. And so
right.
Overcoming.
Okay. All right.
But they were fixed obviously for the
right. They were.
Yes,
yeah, they sure were. Never done well.
So if you're on this call, I would just say walk around the district by the next meeting and come back with what you have a take on trash cans. If any are damaged, write down your location and be ready to report at the next meeting, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So would you like me to put together a draft budget?
That'd be great. Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, just something that we could just scratch and yeah, that would be fantastic.
We'll do it.
Okay, so Tim's not here for BDC update, but they host. Did anyone go to the business open roundtable?
Roundtable?
Us two went.
Okay.
So we can get an update.
It was a little bit of a pickle for us since we had open house the day on that Sunday. So all my hourly employees, which I don't have enough of already,
right?
They all had to have extra days off during the week, which made that week very hard for my business partner and myself, but it was good.
So just briefly on from the BDC, the roundtable went well. We had 25 actually, 25 folks, which I was very happy with considering the holiday schedule, but it was a good mix. It wasn't just people on the commissions or the districts. I mean, there were other business entities, folks like Sunrise came. So, I mean, we had a good mix around. We had great input. Fran, thank you, Lord. Fran is typing all of it up, but we did tabletop conversations. So we just a brief conversation about the ARP. So because we're asking folks about, you know, what could the city do for business with that money, the 4.6 million from the federal government. So we gave them the high overview of that, but it was really tabletop questions around five different questions. You know, what really hit you hard during COVID? What went well? What's the thing that's your biggest challenge? You know, what's standing in the way from City Hall? Is it our permitting process? Is it more funding? Is it more support? Is it more benches, more lights? Is it, you know, what do we need to do and change ourselves to help improve the business climate? What could the ARP do for you? And why am I missing the other one? Oh, what's the thing? What's the secret sauce you're looking for that can help you improve your profitability or scale up if that's where you want to go? So just those basic questions to really give us some solid input to start on a business survey that will go out in January from the BDC. And then also in later December, you'll see what's called Balancing Act, which is budgeting software that all of you can use on how to spend that 4.6 million. And it's really, you know, if you know, because every budget, including this spending the 4.6 is a value statement, right? So if we want to be supportive of business, do we put 300,000 in that? And then, okay, now you have spent more than your 4.6 million. It'll show you that and it'll make you take away something to balance that budget. And so it's an input tool that gives us quantitative data towards the same type of value choices that the elected officials have to make, right? And drive some of that community input. So it was a great input session for that. Again, we will have on the Business Roundtable page the presentation that we did, and also the input when it's typed up will be there. And that'll be sort of our homepage for that survey when it comes out and such as well. So, so it's a start for that process. The BDC, I really want to thank the members, including Tim, he was there, and was, they were moderators and scribes. And like I said, it was good conversation and a good mix from around the city and from different types of businesses. So Fran, I don't know if I missed anything or your comments or anything you want to add.
No, one of the things that I liked was because we were all at different tables, you got totally different ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some real out of the box stuff,
Okay.
which was really cool. I mean, I had a plumber sitting at my table, and you would expect everything to be focused on what and he actually was talking about other things as well. So it was really a good session. I think if you'd had even more people there, it might not have been as good. It worked out well.
It's an appropriate time as we look at and one of the big points we made is nothing will go back to 100% where it was, right? COVID has completely changed how we're going to operate in some regard for all of us. And it's right now, the St. Louis Association of Realtors is starting to talk to the elected officials because they are encountering upwards of 50 to 70 different sets of building codes between electrical, plumbing, and all that across the region, right? And they want to come to some more standardization so that a plumber doesn't have to remember when I cross this street, I got to go get a whole nother set of something or things like that. So there's these conversations going on. Where does the government red tape, step in and cause problems, or where do we step in and help in other areas so that we can provide those things? So.
All right, thank you guys. City update.
So I'll run through my little list here, and then I'll turn it over to Council Member Franklin. Here are the business listings. So Book Go, not for profit, is back up in 46.
Dave lost sound for some reason.
Can you hear us, Joe?
I can hear you fine. How about you, Mickey?
Yep, I can hear.
Dave still can't hear?
Still can't hear. I'll send him a quick message as I.
Did we lose Mark? Wasn't Mark here?
Mark was on and now he's not on.
There we go. So let's hope he can get connected. So Book Go is opening. Union Studio, Fourth and Home, Field Theory, Eurotrash. If you want me to go into where these are, feel free to stop me. You've heard most of these: Wingstop and Betty's Books. Amy's Cake Pop Shop is expanding in Old Orchard. Union Bagel under construction. Zushi Sushi, I finally got it right, is building in Yorkshire. Total Access Urgent Care is under construction. Webster Arts is moving into the Lockwood Summit building next to Betty's Books. So they're moving out of their space on, I think that's Garden back there. So very specific to your district, the 55 Moody Development. Is everyone familiar with that development?
No.
So that's the Bank of America drive-through building on Moody.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So that the owners have asked to have that rezoned to planned commercial.
Okay.
And the Planning Commission has agreed to that. So it's rezoned for planned commercial to allow 17 multi-family units. So it's a new building that will go there with an accessory parking lot and still have one drive-through ATM line. And I believe that's going to be Chase going in there. And
that's
so
all approved.
The Plan Commission's approved it.
Okay, got it.
So it goes to the council, and the public hearing will be on December 7th.
Okay.
So the Plan Commission did approve it. The only reason it had to go to Plan Commission because it's a allowable use was because they wanted to put the ATM lane in, and that's was a requirement for obviously a tenant if to use the space. So so that is
17-unit apartments.
Yes. So now I think that's a planned commercial plan. So that what happens is much like Douglas Hill without all the extra steps in some ways, but Plan Commission has approved it. Will go to the council, and then we'll go back to Plan Commission for the final development plan, which will be the very specific. Do you meet the parking restrictions? Do you have the ATM lane, ingress, egress, and all that kind of thing? So, but that's how a planned commercial district works. So,
and is there anything that the public can see, like is it all on the,
It should be on the plan site. I will find the link and have the Fran send it out for
that'd be great.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you can see. So, and I'll include in that link the YouTube of the Plan Commission, so you can watch the actual presentation.
Okay.
You said this to be apartments or condos or?
So it's, I believe it's apartments. It's, so I don't think they're going to be selling the condos in the building. Will be rental apartments, multifamily of a nature. So.
And the only commercial is the ATM?
I believe so, yes. And so there's really no, the only commercial on there now is the drive-through, the old Bank of America
Right.
drive-through.
Mhm.
So it's an ATM. I believe they're going to go apartments all the way to the first floor and not have a commercial space. I believe the owner also owns the buildings on Gore.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So,
right next to it.
Yeah, so those will not change. That is not anticipated changing, but they're in the rezone district, which obviously in the future, should they want to expand that, you know, that could change the faceplate of Gore. So,
Sure.
but that would all still come back for, you know, appropriate permitting and such. So. And then tree preservation and landscape ordinance amendments are before the Plan Commission in on Monday, December 13th. So this is mostly private tree issues, which shouldn't affect the business district in a big way, but tree ordinances certainly become a political issue, which may pop up into something in our world. So we'll keep an eye on that, but I just want to make you aware that's going to be a big work for the Plan Commission. So, and there is the Sustainability Commission. It would like to do a tree sustainability or green space. One of the two wants to do a bigger tree of distinction program and really tree preservation using some of the public tree funds. So, you know, as they begin to put their draft program together, I'll put an eye towards what does that mean for street side trees. You know, are we talking about anything that would hinder a business ability and such? You know, trees are obviously very valuable, and I'm not saying we want to get rid of trees, but
Right.
Also looking towards that if a business is going to expand or wants to do sidewalk, you know, parklets or, you know, sidewalk dining, how does that help or hinder such things? So. And then we have TIF commission today for Douglas Hill, which I think Mark's on, so I'll let him talk about that. And then I'll come back with our process. And if Mr. Franklin's back, I'll.
Yeah, sorry, I lost connection there for a minute, but yeah, vote today is at 10. I mean, I don't know that I have a whole lot of new information. Haven't received a lot of questions or comments as a whole from this group or anybody. So certainly if you have any, certainly would love to hear them. But there's been a ton of information shared. And at the end of the day, the TIF Commission's role is not to approve or not approve the Douglas Hill project. It's to say, basically allow TIF financing as a tool for the council to use in their approval or not of the project. So it's kind of where it is. The school board has been one that I think has been a bit of a hot topic as far as the TIF goes. And I know there's been some meetings between the city and the school board and the developers to kind of walk through their concerns. And I guess we'll probably hear more this morning on where that's at. Or I don't know if Eric has any information to share on that topic, or if anyone else has any questions or concerns that we could try to answer.
The TIF commission was scheduled to vote on the 10th, and they delayed that to today because the school district wanted more time to look at some of the numbers and such. The ultimate, I don't even know if I call it a concern, but really the goal is obviously the school district is the most property tax based entity of all the taxing jurisdictions. And so with 100% of the future increment in property taxes going into the TIF, that would affect them in the future. So they were trying to not only understand, but then come to an arrangement on how do we account for new children if they move into such a development for those costs. And so that is partly a conversation with the city, but also because they're a landowner within that district that would be selling to SG Collaborative to do Douglas Hill, is a conversation with SG Collaborative, because as a purchaser agreement, there's a lot more freedom for the school district to get things done rather than working through the city's laborious process under TIF. I mean, TIF is so tightly regulated that, you know, any of the sweeteners to help a taxing jurisdiction out have to be spread across all the taxing jurisdictions. So you end up with, does the TIF make sense anymore or not? And so in reality, we encourage the school to really just sit with SG Collaborative and start hammering out the deal, and that'll help move us along in this process. So,
and they have done that.
They have done that and met with them. I don't know that they'll have an agreement, or if they'll have a gentleman's understanding before they come today. And so, the TIF vote will come up. I have not counted the votes. I'm staying out of that world. It's really just been, keep it coordinated moving forward. I did look at Old Webster. So, your $47,000 in property taxes, so few because there are district, entities in the district on the other side of the tracks there along Pacific, but your incremental value would be it's so negligible, that property tax in there, you're a couple $1,000s. We will have, the city has included in our negotiation with SG Collaborative for the development agreement, what's called the hold harmless, so that when the buildings if this all goes through, the buildings are torn down and you lose that initial occupancy, there's no dip in the taxes collected because you're in a construction zone. So there'll be a hold harmless. So that base level of taxation you've always received, SG is just going to have to fill that delta between the dip and where it is right now. So the basic theory of TIF is we set the baseline, you get the taxes, through that period. So,
Eric,
go ahead, Mark.
When this project's complete, will the entirety of the commercial property there be considered Old Webster Business District?
So the district lines would not change under the way things are sitting now. We have, as staff, recommended, because it'll be one property owner other than the church, that property owner has to agree to move the entire zone into the Old Webster Business District, which what that allows you is if this district chooses to do things on Kirkham, as entryway and gateway into Old Webster and such like that. So not that we have no plans to require you to do that, but it's thinking about those things as we look in the future. If we want to activate Gore on the other side of the tracks as an entry point gateway into Old Webster, we can start to do that. So that was we called it forethought we put into that. Since SG creating a business district requires consent of some of the owners and such, right? And most of that land that's not in that area is the church property that they'll be buying. So yeah,
and it's their job
which would increase your taxes, by the way, because obviously that would become taxable land and increase your tax base for the district.
The owners who live on that street, people who have buildings on that street, and there are some businesses on that street.
Yeah.
They're in separate negotiations with SG to purchase their land.
So the property owners, right? So and SG's been very forthright that for a tenant business, they are not talking to the business until the property owner gives them permission to, right?
Okay.
So now I think most of that has been allowed because obviously we're getting much closer to the big approvals if this is going to happen.
Right.
So they all have their own purchaser agreement and all that. There's also relocation for all the businesses that, there are certain things in state statute that SG Collaborative, has to provide. We have also added into our conversations with Larry, not agreed to yet, but, we want to look at some of the gross proceeds for some of these initial things that are going to affect businesses, creating a business impact fund, right? That we can, at the city, someone comes and says, I've got to move and I'm, losing, 10 parking spots. There's a fund that we can help try to mitigate those in some way. So this all is going to be contingent on these votes happening and then obviously coming to this agreement. But those are the thoughts we have put into it as city staff and as the council on how do we help mitigate these.
And so, Mark, essentially, you'll be voting today, but that even if you guys vote not to recommend it, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
If the TIF commission were to vote no or a negative recommendation or tie, then it takes 5 of the 7 council members to approve the TIF.
I got you. Okay.
So if they vote yes today, then it only takes 4. It just takes a majority.
Okay.
So that's how the TIF laws work.
Okay.
But yes, you're right. I mean, theoretically, if the TIF votes no, the council can still vote yes. If the TIF votes yes, the council can still vote no.
Okay.
It's the job of the commission really to look at TIF under the statute, the state law statutes. Does this meet all these certain things moving forward to council or not? So,
and one last thing on TIF is the only thing it really funds is infrastructure.
That's correct.
It does not fund their buildings. It doesn't. It just funds sewer, streets, and
so when we look at that site, there a huge cost is acquisition. So that is a public infrastructure cost to acquire the lands. That's part of TIF, and then you're building on rock. So you're not coming in just scraping off topsoil and such. I mean, really, there's hard rock under all pieces of that. So they're going to be having to come in and dig out down to the bedrocks they want to find and get to the right grades. And then all of that then flows in. The other public infrastructure is in the creek. It's about 5 million between the Gore and Kirkham culvert, which is that old brick looking culvert. That'll all get replaced. And then a whole new flood stream bed down there to get put in, along with a river walk and many other things. So, okay. But yes, you're right. Under law, none of this will go to their buildings. None of this just falls in the developer's pocket. In fact, so all of you know, TIF is collected. The property taxes still come to the city, and all the taxes, they get held in the special allocation fund. And I can only release them to reimburse the developer for their loans. We don't even take the loan. They take the loan out for these projects. I can only release that as long as they're in compliance with the development agreement that the council and the developer would come in agreement to. So,
one thing that we've always had a problem with the taxing district with residences. The boundary for the taxing district was drawn around the apartments at Glen and also around the Rockford apartments, so that we did not get a number of residences in there that had to be included in any vote if the taxing district wanted to put in any increase the tax or whatever.
Yeah, I think there's like a transportation district, or we were looking at things like that. And I think we had about 12 people that were in the taxing district that lived in there at one time, something like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's, obviously your boundaries as they sit right now are going to include residences if they don't change. So I mean, if you all don't want residences, that's fine, but you're going to lose a good chunk of potential tax base. And also all those residences are going to sit on top of commercial underneath.
Right.
So save one building. So 7 of the 8 buildings will be apartments with first floor commercial.
Well, I'm not sure. Are you saying the apartment complex is not in our taxing district right now?
The
one across the street here?
They are not.
They're not.
And so if we include, if the project goes forward, we might want to rethink that if we're going to be putting residential in. I mean, I don't know if it makes a matter one way or another, but.
And let me look at the statutes. First of all, there's like 8 different statutes for different types of cities and business districts and the construction, because I don't want us to, right. And so let me look at that and see what the real impact is in terms of boundary lot owners. Ultimately, even if they're residences, the ownership is still going to remain with the collaborative. So, and that's one of the differences that we'll have to look at is ownership or residential.
And one thing we talked about in a previous meeting there, you may have brought this up, was that with TIPs, there've been creative district lines drawn where it's just the first floor of these buildings, which is retail, and that's who would want in a business district versus residences. And so does that ring a bell to you?
It does, and I think we can do that. But I want to check and make sure that it's not limited to parcels, or can we go on different height levels?
And supposedly, I guess, so it will be the 17 multifamily, which is going in kind of Bank of America. That's going to be in our business district now,
unless we change the boundaries. And
so
I don't think it's an issue. It's just that I think at one time we're thinking about doing a transportation district.
Well, we were talking about CID at one time.
Yeah, and they just have to vote on it, and if it makes sense, then
so
100 people versus 12,
and we obviously do have a TDD right now. So there's a little higher sales tax in the new 20 Allen building, the Layla building, I call it the Novus building, and Bredco. There's actually there's a TDD, extra sales tax on that building. That's in place, and it's been there since the beginning of the TIF. It is likely that, and this is not part of the TIF or the initial approval, it is likely that SG will ask for a CID for that district boundary, which will be a 1% sales tax, a community investment district.
Okay. So then if that's the case, then they won't be part of our business district.
Well, they would be. So they're still part of the business district, and there's a CID.
And there's a CID on that as well.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
but just on that area.
But just on that area.
Okay. So my bike shop's over there. I have to charge it, and I'll be charging customers an extra 1%.
If that's approved,
Right,
and they haven't asked for that. I mean,
But they
we know they
and
could, and
you've
yes.
been around a while, and you know how it works
Yeah.
better than any of us. So, okay. Any other questions for Mark or comments?
The only thing I have is walking across the street from our building, which is 48 West Lockwood, where the Webster Press is. Their sidewalk is around their trees is buckling. The bricks and everything, which probably means the trees may or may not have to be removed. They probably won't be too happy about that, but that's,
Well,
it just needs to be
we've had that
addressed.
issue in other areas. Maybe you just don't jump to that.
Yeah, just the sidewalk area though does need to be fixed. And
However it needs to be done. I would agree that I don't like to see big trees taken down either, but you know, if it's continual hazard, it has to be done.
yeah, so it just has to be looked at. Public Works needs to determine what the fix is. And then it's literally right just west of their entrance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The main truck.
Yeah, there's 3 big trees right there. So. Okay. So nothing else for Mark? Okay, so our next meeting's adjourned. We'll be looking for, well, I guess Eric already sent this. He already needs all this information. So.
But we'll get the emails out so everyone has it. That wasn't
Okay, sounds great. Okay.
And when I have an update from Strive and others on lights, I'll make sure to get that out there.
Sounds awesome.
I just have a question, unrelated really to this committee, but maybe Mark too. Is anybody having any problems with enforcing masks?
Oh yeah.
We're getting some nasty stuff. We had a guy come in the other day and picked up our box of masks and threw them all over the place.
Well, that's when you
We're
call
getting,
police.
on the plus side, the customers, patrons got up and they started cleaning up, which was very nice. But just wondering, if anybody, Mark, do you have any problem at your places?
You're on mute, Mark, if you're trying to talk.
Just curious.
Yeah, so no, we haven't had any super nastiness, but we've had definitely people who are just ready to fight. I mean, they're coming in, they're looking for it.
Yep.
You know, they're
Oh, yeah.
totally trying to pick a fight is what
Yep.
they're trying to do.
Yep.
So it's yeah.
And I know the other thing is I know there's been problems with some kids. We had to call the police the other day with kids on bikes and whatever. And,
yeah, that hurt my
oh
feelings.
my God.
Yeah, there's a group of kids who've been riding around, and it would be nice if I don't, you know, of course, I'm going to encourage kids to ride bikes versus get off Xbox. But these kids zip up and down the sidewalks and do wheelies everywhere, and it is not good for people walking on the sidewalks.
They're right in between our tables and just all kinds of.
Yeah, they need to not. Yeah, they took a bunch of our pallets out from behind our building, put them in your parking lot right behind your business. I saw them doing it. They were playing, having fun, and I was like, "Look, guys, I'm all for this." It was a Saturday afternoon, and no one's there. But I was like, "I want this cleaned up when they're done." Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It wasn't cleaned up. Nobody touched it. You know, I'm just like, so now I would never let them do that again.
Yeah.
You know.
No, they were lying to the cops, telling them they had Dan Stevens' approval to do that.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, but mainly about the mask thing.
Yeah. So
Mark's back.
Mark,
Do you have any problems with masks? We're having a lot of trouble lately.
You know, honestly, I've had less. I mean, I've had a year and a half of like serious problems, but I feel like we've had less as of late.
And I think it's like any other bad customer. For the 1,000 good ones you have one bad one, and you remember the one bad one who threw your mask. I mean, that's what I would remember. I'd be like,
I wish it was just one.
And I mean, ours is different than it was before. I mean, before they were asking us to be very strict and put the mask up when employees approach, and every time you move around, they just didn't ask the same of restaurants this time. So it's just been a little bit different because people are just, the way Paige kind of laid out the mandate this time wasn't asking restaurants to be as strict as it was in the past. So people are allowed to sit at their table and have their masks off. And
it's I flew to Denver a couple weeks ago, and there were multiple people on each way who were ready to go with flight attendants. I mean, full on, like you see in the news, they were not wearing masks, have them pulled down on their chin. We're told to pull them up, pull them back down, said that they were going to be removed from the plane by marshals. And I was just like, oh, God, really? You know, you think that this doesn't happen very often, but it happened both ways from here to Denver. So anyway, so let's just keep trying to, we have our signs up in the front of our building, big and huge, and oh, I didn't notice. It's a 3-foot sign.
Yeah, I don't know how they can't notice your signs.
Right.
Ron.
Right. So,
They notice them. It's the problem is it's just since day one, it's been uneven enforcement by businesses across the county and certainly across the region. So everyone puts the sign up because they're supposed to, and half the businesses don't enforce it whatsoever. And you go walk into Schnucks right now, and you're about probably 25% of the people in there aren't wearing masks.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So just keep everybody pushing through. Get your boosters.
I got mine. So my final note before everyone goes, the city clerk should be emailing you. I'm hopeful this week, but December 17th is the boards and commissions holiday party down at the rec center. So you'll all be invited. It's just wine, champagne, beer, dessert type gathering, so we can be spaced out and all that. But you'll get that invitation. So.
All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mark, good luck today.
Thank you. 50 minutes. Yeah.